We would do this morning is talk about some best practices that we've all noticed that are very supportive of connecting home and school for our students. And what we wanted to make sure we shared with parents is that the things that you do at home can really help your students at school. Okay. So we just have two objectives today, and that's to identify the most common areas where students need support. And so we've noticed that consistently in different groups of students, there's about 5 areas that come up as being areas where students need some practice. And if they get the opportunity to do that at home, we notice that it really supports them being successful at school. And then we want to help parents learn strategies to use at home to support student learning. Okay. And I wanted to make this so that no parent had to go out and buy anything. So nothing in this presentation is going to ask you to run out and purchase an app or a device or a workbook. Hopefully it's all things that you can do personally, so that it's mostly actions and routines or things that you can find around your house. So for us, the goal of education is meaningful student participation. If the students are coming to school every day, we want it to be engaging to them. We want it to be at their level. We want it to generate their understanding and to make sure that they have the ability to make progress individually. Okay, so everything we do is geared towards that. So we like to remind parents that home and school are absolutely connected. Everything that happens here can be used at home, and everything at home can be impactful here. So the different behaviors and attitudes that you need from your child, we need those same behaviors and attitudes at school, okay? I'm a parent and I need my kids to just do what I ask them to do, right? I need them to go to bed when I want them to go to bed. I need them to clean up when there's a mess in the room. I need them to help out around the house. So what you want them to do, we also want them to do, right? I need them to keep track of their things. I don't know how many times I sent my son to school and then he came home, no jacket. Did you take the jacket? Where'd the jacket go? Lunch pails. I would buy 2, 3 lunch pails in a school year. So I needed them to keep track of their things. I needed them to have responsibility, right? So we had a pet. Did you feed the pet? Did you clean up after the pet? I started teaching my daughter how to help me with the laundry, all those things that show them that they need to be responsible as a human being for the environment and the people around them. This is a big one, right? I need them to get along with the others in our house, right? Please don't fight with your sister. Try to be nicer to your brother. Don't take the toys, share them. So you need them to get along in your house for your peace, for your sanity. We need that at school too. And then no matter what age they are, they need to be able to appropriately control their emotions, right? If you tell them no, you don't want a massive tantrum on the floor. Maybe they could ask why, and you can be like, I'll explain. Or the best one, okay, that's fine. I don't know how often we get that, but they need to understand that there's an appropriate time and place for anger, appropriate time and place to be upset, and then what are the correct or appropriate behaviors that go along with those emotions. So those are all things that you need at home, right? You need that to make your life easier as a parent. And we need the exact same thing at schools. We just might not use the same language, okay? So let's look at these areas and see how you can help your student. So we call it following instructions, right? And for you, that's just do what I tell you. Exact same thing. We just get fancy with follow instructions, right? Academic language. We need for them to be organized. They need to be able to have a methodology for keeping their things together, right? And just like we said, keep track of your things. That's being organized. And so we just want you to see the relationship for what you're doing at home and how that's supporting a teacher in the classroom. Completing any assignment, right? For you, that's like, did you help out around the house? I told you to do this. and I needed to see this completed. Same thing at school. We need you to do that math assignment. I explained it. Now I walked away. When I come back, it should be complete. Okay. Working in cooperative groups. That's really important at a school. There's 25 little babies in a room. It's not just the teacher and one student. So we need them to be able to be in a group, to negotiate who's going to do what, to understand how to speak to each other, and to make sure that they're getting along with the others that they're sharing their environment with. And then we need them to monitor their behavior, right? There are rules at school, there are procedures at school. You can't blow up and be overly emotional whenever something isn't going exactly how you want it. So at school, it's monitoring your behavior, but at home, it's controlling your emotions. So again, home and school are completely connected. Okay, so we're going to look at each of these 5 areas and see what are some strategies you can help your student at home with. So how can you help your student follow instructions? Okay, we always give kids directions and instructions, but before you did that, did you make sure they were listening? That's the biggest thing. You're talking, and then your kids walked out of the room, or they had their headphones on, or they're in the middle of a text, or the TV was going and they were focused on their show. So the main thing before you give an instruction, make sure they are listening, okay? Once they're listening, give them time to think, right? Go put your shoes on, and then you wait 2 seconds, go put your shoes on, and now you're heightened, go put your shoes on. You didn't even give them a minute to breathe and to process what the direction was. Okay. Maybe give that direction and include a picture, include an action, right? So that they're connecting it. Something as basic as go put your shoes on, point to your shoe, go put your shoes on, and then wait. So you're giving them the direction, give them time to think, now add that picture in so that they know exactly what you want. If it's something brand new, model the direction. If you're giving them something complicated and they've never done it before, they're probably not going to be able to fulfill your request. So make sure you model it the first time, even the second time, because why not set them up to be successful? You showed them, maybe act it out together, and then the next time you have to give that direction, you're a lot more likely to have them complete it, okay? Once you've done all these steps, have the student repeat back to you what it is you want, because then you can see the gaps in their understanding. So if it's a multi-step direction, they might have heard one in the end and lost everything in the middle. So then you start with the directions that are missing, but have them repeat it to you, one, so that you can hear the language they're associating with that direction. Maybe they have a different word for what you're describing just inadvertently. So you want to make sure you've got the same vocabulary. Okay, so just 4 easy ways of making sure you help your student follow instructions, because that's how teachers explain things at school, right? We give a direction, we allow for think time. We give a direction, we pair it with a visual. We give a direction, show the visual, act it out. We give a direction, show the visual, act it out, and then ask them, repeat it back to me. So that procedure at home will help them be familiar with it at school. Okay. Let's help our student get organized. So one of the main things at school is kids have things everywhere, right? But maybe they don't know what an organized space looks like. So just take a picture of the space where your child is working on your phone and show it to them. When you're done, this is how it should look. Clean it up to make it look just like this picture. Easy fix. That way they can't say, well, I didn't know. Well, look at the picture. Match the picture to your area. Okay. If your child doesn't have a dedicated space, maybe you guys have a busy schedule and sometimes you're at home, but sometimes you're sitting at the park while the brother's at soccer practice, or sometimes they go to grandma's house or the babysitters. Keep their supplies accessible in a bag, in a backpack. And I'm not talking about their school backpack, because who knows what's in that, right? They could have opened it at school and took everything out. Maybe you have a box in your car so that wherever you are, everything they need is there. If you're running around and you stopped at a friend's house, oh, you need to do something? Let me go get your box. I've got everything in here you could need. Keep it someplace that they always have access to it. And then they don't have an excuse. I didn't have a pencil. I was supposed to cut something. I don't have any scissors. Yes, you do. It's in the car or it's in the backpack, and that's easily portable. Okay. Sometimes kids need a visual of what it is they're expected to do. So you need to just draw something out for them. Again, your phone is so useful now. You could literally take a picture of the bathroom, get up in the morning and go straight here, take a picture of their pajamas. After that, go put these on, then go back to wherever it is you need them to do, and a visual in the sequence that you want to see it happen so that they can refer back to it. Okay. For some kids, they just need a checklist. They know what to do, but they forget, like, oh, they'll do number one. And then they're like, oh, what else was I supposed to do? So just write it down somewhere where they can see it, and then let them physically check it off, because that's what we need in the class. There's always a schedule up in the classroom, and there are always options. If this, then this, or first do number one, and when you're done, do number two, and when you're done, do number three. So if they're used to doing that in the house, when they walk into a classroom, it's going to be familiar. It's going to feel like something they can accomplish. And so it'll be really easy for them to carry that behavior from home and then duplicate it at school. Okay. And this is the one I call you're going to feel robotic, but you need to have a routine. You need to start doing things in the same order, the same time, so that they can start anticipating what's next. Schools are heavily based on routines. The kids know what time the bell rings. They know that they line up and then they walk to their class. They know that on Mondays they have library, but on Tuesdays they have art, and on Wednesdays they have PE. They understand that they need to follow a routine, and they start anticipating it so that they're not upset when it's time to do something different, or thrown off whenever they get into the activity and they're like, oh, I love this art project, but the bell just rang, so that means it's time to clean up for lunch. So if you can follow a routine at home, then it's something that they've gotten used to. And it's hard for us because we're like, oh, we did the same thing every day, but children really need that sense of sameness. It helps them feel secure. Okay, help us get their assignments completed. Okay. So use a timer to define a work period. They don't always have a really good sense of time. So if you say, this assignment, you're only going to work on it while the timer's on, and accept however far they get in that assignment, as long as you saw them working diligently. When the timer goes off, they're done, so that they don't feel like, I've been doing this forever, it's never going to be over, how come I'm still sitting here? We want them to start getting a sense of how long it takes them to do something. Give them a list, kind of referring back to that whole checkoff list. I noticed that your teacher gave you 3 things. You have math, you have reading, and then you have an art activity, or you have something else, a special project to do. So give them a list so that they know in their head how much they have to get done, and they're not surprised when you hand them the next book or tell them, oh, you still need to do that. Because then they're going to be like, no, I thought I was done. And now they're upset. Okay. Maybe teach them how to use a planner. If they're older, they can start writing in a planner. But if they're little, just have a big calendar and show them, this is Monday. I'm going to write, a plus sign on Monday, because your teacher always sends home your math activities on Monday. But on Tuesday, I'm going to make a pencil, because she always sends your writing on Tuesdays. And show them how to use the calendar so they can start orienting themselves as to the day of the week and the time that they have to do a particular activity. Okay. And most important, right? We're bossy people as parents, but they've got to have some celebration. When they actually do something, blow it up, make it a big deal, celebrate with them, give them a little reward. I'm not saying run out and buy a DS, like, come give mommy a hug, come sit down with me and watch your favorite show for 5 minutes, come sit by me at the table today when we eat, or any little treat that they don't normally have, just give them access to. But most of all, communicate to them how proud you are of them for completing whatever task it was you gave them, right? So, run over and tell grandma that you finished your work. And, grandmas, they're going to get lots of love or hugs and just feel special, so that they start attaching a positive emotion to completing a task, as opposed to that, oh, I have to go do this again. Maybe they can anticipate the feeling that they get from being with their family and being celebrated. Okay. So the cooperative groups, right? Parents can help by having students practice these things. At school, we use a process called think, pair, share. So the students are going to think about a topic, they're going to pair up with a friend, and then they're going to share. But in order to do this, they need to build some more foundational pieces. Okay. Smile at the person you're talking to, right? Nobody wants to talk to somebody who's got a sour look on their face. Be inviting, make them want to come over. They'll smile back at you. We want the children to learn to look at the person they're speaking with. Culturally, that may not match what our students have been taught. Some students are taught you don't look at older adults in their face, it's not respectful. But that's a norm here in the school setting. So we want to build that for them. So it's okay to look at the person you're speaking with, teachers included. Okay. We need parents to have actual conversations with their kids. I'm a mom, so I'm sure you've had this too. You pick them up, you get in the car, and they just start talking. Blah, 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 blah. They're telling you a story about what happened on the yard. They're telling you about this. You've said nothing. They're just going. It's just all coming out. That's them telling you about their day, but it's not a conversation. So we need them to engage in taking a turn, right? You say something, they say something, but they have to listen to what you said so that they can stay on the topic. Because you'll say, oh, did you give your teacher your homework? Mom, are we still going to Disneyland this weekend? That's not a conversation. That's the student, right? Again, just telling you what's on their mind. So require that they engage in the conversation. Practice the turn taking, making sure that they're actively listening to what you're saying, requiring that they respond on topic, and then flip it. Let them initiate the conversation so that you can model. I waited my turn. I listened to what you said, and now I'm responding and staying on that topic. Okay. We need that for school because that's how we engage in talking about different subjects that we've read, how they're going to talk with their friends in the group. And then the other thing is we need kids to learn how to be in charge, right? So if you're in a group and we've asked you to be the leader of that group, what does that look like? Kids are used to being given directions. They haven't learned how to, I'm going to be in charge, but how do I ask respectfully for someone to do something? How do I assign different roles to each of the people in my group? How can I be a good leader? So if we let them do that at the house, you're in charge of dinner. Who's going to cook? Is it going to be mom? Is it going to be dad? You're in charge of dinner. What are we eating? Who's going to sit where at the table? Who's going to put the drinks on the table? Who's going to clean up after? Who's in charge of washing the dishes after? So put them in charge and require that they follow through on making sure that everyone participates in the task and that everything gets completed. And that if something doesn't happen, that as the person in charge, then it's going to fall on them to either take care of it themselves or require the person that they gave the task to also complete that task. Okay. Let's talk about monitoring their own behavior, okay? So parents can help by praising their students, and parents can help by alerting them to certain kinds of behaviors and when it's appropriate, right? We need to give them small choices within the assignment or task you've given them. And then we're going to establish either positive or negative consequences. Okay, so praise your student for all appropriate behavior, right? If you've noticed that they tend to talk back to you before you've been able to communicate what you wanted, but then there's this one time where they actually sit and listen to what you said, then praise them for that. Hey, I noticed that you let me finish my sentence, or whatever the case may be. Praise them so that they associate that behavior with something positive. Okay. Alert your student to what your expected behavior is. So there's different appropriate behavior for where you're going or where you may be. So start talking about it. Hey, we're going to the market and I expect you to stay with me in the store. I expect you not to take food off the shelf, right? Tell them what behavior is the correct behavior for where they are, because it changes from one situation to the next. And so maybe they can't behave appropriately if you haven't given them your expectations. And this way they're very aware of what you want from them. Okay. You can give them choices within a task. So it's time to do math. That's not a choice. It's time to do math. But here's the two choices. I can sit with you and do the first 5 together, or you can do 5 by yourself, stop and come and find me, and we'll review them to make sure they're correct. So that's a choice within the task. He doesn't get to choose not doing the math, because that wasn't one of the options. One of the options was a way to make the assignment a little easier and break it up into parts, but it's still going to ultimately result in completion of the task. Okay. And we need to start teaching our students about consequences, right? There are positive consequences to doing things. There are negative consequences to doing things, but they need to be exposed to, if A happened, then B is going to happen. B could be wonderful. B could be the best thing ever, but it's a consequence of the behavior. And if you're not comfortable with negative consequences as your parenting style, then it's either the consequence is something great or the absence of any activity for the inappropriate behavior. So you have to decide what fits in your parenting model, but you do have to establish, if this behavior happens, then this thing happens. Whether it's mom doesn't talk because I'm not going to acknowledge that inappropriate behavior, or it's, wow, you did a great job, you finished it, that means that this can now happen. But they have to associate something they did with a consequence for having done that. Okay, so hopefully we've kind of reached our objectives. I wanted to keep it short. It is Monday morning at 8:30. And I wanted to make sure that, there wasn't anything in here that you had to run out and purchase. These should all be things that you can just kind of start doing very easily, because there's just routine-based and personal actions. And then it's ways that should help your life at home eventually after the kids get the hang of it. And then it most certainly will help school. So we try to identify the most common areas where students need support, right? And that's following directions, being organized, completing assignments, working in groups, and monitoring behavior. I hoped we learned ways to accommodate how students learn at home and selecting strategies that are relevant to your child, because maybe your child's organized, so you can just not even worry about that whole organized section, but they do have some times where they get very upset about being asked to do something. So maybe focus on monitoring their behavior. And of course, as parents, you already have a lot of strategies, right? So you can list any of the ideas that maybe we went over here, but certainly there's ideas or things you're doing at home that would be really interesting to hear, because maybe it's something we could incorporate and that would help the child feel even more connected. Oh, my mom does that at the house, and now my teacher is doing that in the classroom. And that would be another way to just really support the student feeling connected from home to school, but still establishing some of these best practices that we really need all of our students to be incorporating in their daily school life. Okay. Did anyone have any questions or any thoughts? Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. If you want access to this or the strategies on a handout, please just put your name and your email in the chat, and I'll be happy to send that out to you.